We live in groups. We're born in families. We're never alone. Hi, I'm Veronica from Human Design Journey, and with me today I have a very special guest, and this is Karen Sherwood. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk with you today. So thank you for allowing me to share.
It is my honor and it is my pleasure that you agreed to share yourself and your wisdom with my followers and hopefully with the world at large. But this is how I wanted to start, that we are never alone. And I didn't want to say, let's talk about the business side of human design, because BG5 and O16 is much more than business. Can you tell us something more about what is actually BG5 and what is OC16?
Yes. So when we look at it, it is in a sense the approach to the business application of the human design system. However, like you said, it is so much more than just the business application because it is about how do we connect? How do we work with each other in small groups, in large groups, in partnerships, even how we operate individually. And one of the biggest things is how do we connect and how do we collaborate, I think is really the bottom line. Like you said, you know, we're not an island. We are literally designed to connect and collaborate and work with each other, and that's what makes us stronger, whether it's a group of friends, whether it is your yoga class, whether it is your community, whether it is your business, whether it is your family. All of those aspects of how we group and how we work together is all part of what BG5 is about. And BG5 specifically, we take a look at, for example, small groups. And small groups are actually three. As soon as you have three people, you've moved out of partnership and you've moved into a small group. So 3 to 5 up to 9 people is considered sort of a penta or a small group or a unified group dynamic. And as soon as you get to 10, there's an energetic shift that happens, and that's what OC16 is. And OC16 stands for organizing channels, and 16, in a sense, is the number of people. It's between 10 and 16 people. And then from those two building blocks, from the penta or the unified group to the OC16, that's how you build anything larger than that, is that you continue to add smaller groups that continue to create this dynamic of what the OC16 is, and then you add multiple OC16s and you create larger organizations. And so it really is the dynamics and something that gets called out of us, whether we're in partnership, there's a different energy that gets called out of us when we're in a small group of 3 to 5 to 9 people, and a whole different thing that gets called out of us when we're in larger groups of 10 or more. And so that's what we take a look at in BG5 and OC16, is not only how we operate ourselves individually, but how do we stay true to ourselves individually while being in partnership or being in a small group or being in a large group. And I think that is going to be key moving forward into the future, because in many respects, we've sort of been separated, and this is an opportunity to see really how we're truly designed to connect and collaborate and to work together.
Yeah. I wanted to dive directly into the information, but the reason I invited you, Karen, is because you're actually one of the creators of the BG5 Institute and a very long time teacher as well. And I'm sure that people are actually curious to know a little bit more about you and how did you land up in the BG5 world, or was it first human design? How did it all happen? How did it all start? And who's Karen?
That's a big question. Where to start? I really truly feel like I was born to deliver this information. Um, I was back in the late 80s, early 90s. I was backpacking around Europe. And I was doing a lot of meditating and really looking inward. I'm really into self-development and really understanding myself and really understanding others. And as I was meditating, I saw a yellow diamond on my chest connected to my throat. And the message was find the people who know what this means. So, in essence, that's what I feel like my first interaction with human design was, because I had no idea what that even meant. And it took me 20 years to finally find human design and BG5. And so it's interesting because I was doing things with group dynamics before I even knew about BG5. I was taking a look at, oh, what is it when you operate individually? And what is it? What are the dynamics and how is it different when you're working with one other person? And what if you have a group? And I could feel as soon as you got to 5 people, something shifted and changed. And when you got to larger groups, something shifted and changed. So I was playing with these dynamics and sort of putting workshops together around these dynamics for businesses. And when I found BG5, I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I've been looking at and studying. So there have been a lot of things that really, kind of led me down the path to discovering what BG5 was all about. And I first came across it because I had an online women's small business network. And one of the women on my network was bringing someone to Colorado, Denver, Colorado is where I live, to do a workshop on human design. And I had no idea what that meant and what that was. So I did a webinar to help her promote the person that was coming in to deliver a workshop on human design. And that's the very first time I saw my design. And I saw a yellow diamond. I have the 1-8. So I have a yellow diamond that was connected directly to the throat. And it was like, in the movies when you kind of see all of a sudden all these pictures of like everything sort of coming together. It was the very first time that I saw my design, and it was like, find the people who know what this means. And there it is in my design. And the first time that I saw my design, it was like I knew everything about it and I knew nothing about it. It was like I recognized it, and it's like it was more about like remembering what it was, because I felt like I had already been connected to it in one way or another. And I've literally been studying it nonstop ever since because I love this information. And when I found out that, there was a business application to it, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have a women's small business network. Of course I want to do business. And so I could not do it. My gut response to do it was so strong. And so I took the BG5 certification. And after that, I started assisting. And the instructor that was originally teaching it after, because I was assisting him, he stepped away. And Linda Bonnell started teaching the class. And then she asked me, I think it was class 6, do you want to teach class 6? And I'm like, sure. Do you want to teach class 7? Sure. And then I taught every class ever since. And then from that point, we worked together in really designing and developing the BG5 Business Institute, separating it from the International Human Design School. And the reason being is to appeal to a different audience, because that's the other thing about BG5 is that human design, as Ross spoke about it, was really for, if you will, the 4%, those that really want to get deep into radical transformation and transforming their lives. But he said he couldn't leave everybody else out, so what about the other 96%? And that's what I feel like BG5 is for the other 69% that yes, it is still transformational, but it's not the radical transformation. It's how do you use it in a very practical way to understand yourself, and how to understand it in a very practical way, to work in partnerships, small groups and large groups. And that's kind of the history. And then for myself personally, I've been a trainer for most of my life. I used to train computer application software. So I trained like Microsoft PowerPoint at Microsoft and traveled around the country. I've trained, I think, in every state except for Montana. I don't know why not Montana, but so I used to travel around and train computer applications. And so in training human design, it's sort of the same thing. And when I say computer applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, in essence, you have the technical aspect of it and you're teaching the end user how to use the technology. And I feel I'm doing the exact same thing with human design. We have the technology of human design and BG5, and my job is to bridge the gap to be able to teach people how to use it in a very practical way. So I feel like everything that I've done in my life has led me to this knowledge and teaching this knowledge. And if you can't tell, I'm very passionate about it.
Yes, I can. And oh my God, the way you bring this information online, but also live, is and practical and mesmerizing at the same time and magical. I'm really impressed by your style of teaching and by your creativity and how you come up and you build up your workshops and also I love how you kind of combine people to work together. Uh, for me, you're walking your talk, and that's
Mm,
like huge. Uh, we know information is one thing, theory is one thing, but how you bring it into practice, that's what matters. Because
yeah.
we're here a soul, but in a body, right? To
Hmm.
express in the physical and in the material world. So I'm really impressed by you. And I want to ask you, you said that you were, when you met Human Design, we were actually working in a business group with women, probably women entrepreneurs. Why women?
Good question. One, because I feel especially um, how do I want to say this? I think the more feminine approach also to business is what's also going to be needed moving forward into the future, and also to give women the power to create their own business and to be supported and to have a network of other women to support them. So it just felt really important to me to um, it was something that, I'm a woman entrepreneur. So how can I also support other women entrepreneurs?
Yeah. And actually, this may be a little bit controversial, but um, looks like the future might be in women's hands because of their more soft approach. You know, if all the leaders in the world were women, I doubt there would be any wars, or that's at least my interpretation of it. But I think this is crucial, and also because we see into those systems, BG5, O16, and human design, and maybe in general, when it's more about the soft skills, it's more women that are interested. Why do you think that is?
Um, I think that we're naturally more intuitive, and ultimately, I think it is. And I'm going to say it this way. I don't necessarily think it's necessarily about the man and the woman. I think it's the masculine and the feminine within each of us, whether you're a man or a woman, because I've seen women also who are very masculine and vice versa. So I think it really is, in a sense, that balance within ourselves as an individual that's really key, whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, because if you can create that balance in yourself of both the logical and the strategic, but also the receptive, when that balance happens, then we can bring it forward to the world. And we are moving into a more receptive phase. We have been living in a very, very, very strategic world. And typically we associate the strategic world with more of the masculine view of the world. But it really needs to be balanced, if you will. And the problem has been, I believe, that things have been out of balance, because I think if anything is too masculine or on the other side too feminine, it doesn't work. Um, and that's one of the things about being able to create the balance, so that you have, in a sense, the right amount of strategic and you have the right amount of receptive. Um, and we have that in each of us. That's also something that you can see in design as well. And as we move to things that are more receptive, what we're doing is we're bringing it back into balance in more of the feminine attributes, where it's been way out of balance in the more masculine attributes. So that's how I view it. I don't see it necessarily as male and female, you know, physically, but how do we bring that balance within each and every one of us, so that we can work together with both of those elements in balance?
Wow. I agree so much. Like the world started with matriarchy before people were aware that it was the two halves that were needed in order to create a human, and they were viewing women as half goddesses, the bringers of life. But then the world moved into patriarchy, and ever since, I would say, it took a
Yeah.
long time for it to be disbalanced on one side, and maybe now the pendulum is going the other way, and until it all balances out, and that when we human find in ourselves the balance, then maybe also the external world will reflect that balance, hopefully.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And I was also one more thing about BG5 versus human design, although they're practically the same system. Um, but yet, something I noticed because I'm into human design since 2010, and I only started being interested in BG5 maybe 2 years ago. So that's a long time. Um, and then I realized that. Okay, I come from a very scientific background, and all my friends, acquaintances, colleagues, classmates, very much scientific oriented. The people around me are lawyers. Even somebody from my class 2 days ago became parliament member. Somebody from my school is the mayor of Sofia. You know what I mean? Very serious business people. And honestly, when I started dealing with human design, because I also come from the business world, I was ashamed. I was ashamed
Mm.
because people were looking at me like I went cuckoo and like, what happened to
Mm.
this woman? And when I met BG5, when I went deeper into it, and now I feel so confident, I can go to any businessman or any politician and I can talk to them in a not such an esoteric language and bring them the same um, or more practical in a more practical way benefits that they can get from actually using the system. So wow, it's really an amazing system. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this interview is to debunk the myth that BG5 is only for business. Because as
Mm.
you said at the beginning, it helps us understand the whole group dynamics and what
Yes.
happens. Yeah.
Yes.
So my question is, how when we understand the group dynamics or the partnership dynamics and our own in terms of how we collaborate with others, what changes for the individual?
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted to go back, and then I'll answer the question
Hmm.
too, because one of the big things that's different about BG5 and human design is that in BG5, we put it in very practical language that anyone can understand. And so that's part of what makes it so accessible is it's common language that, like you said, anyone could understand. And so when it comes to group dynamics, what the power is recognizing we are designed to do certain things. And oftentimes we get distracted by what we think we should do or what we're conditioned to do, or we get in competition because we think we should be better than somebody else. When we can, first of all, know our own personal design and what we're good at, the beautiful thing is that we also see what is not our job and what we are not good at. Uh, and so that when you can find other people and work with other people that are good at that. So, for example, in my design, I am not good at administration. I'm just not very good at it. And I can think of, in business, that's often required. I thought I should be good at it. I was pressured to be good at it. And I felt like, oh my goodness, that's like a huge weakness that I have to keep working on. And I made myself wrong and bad about it because I should be better at administration. And then to see that, oh, that's just not my job. That's just not what I'm good at. And I can find and work with someone else who's really brilliant at administration. And then I can bring the talents that I have personally. And then if we collaborate, it upscales everyone. One of the beautiful things is when you have the right people in the right position with what is truly designed, it becomes easy. I think we make business and we make life and we make everything so much harder because we're trying to be everything to everyone, including ourselves. And we work really hard on those things that we feel that we're not good at. And what if what we're not good at is simply not a part of our design? And we can find someone else to work with that is their brilliance, that's something that they're really good at. And then you bring together a team of people that are brilliant in exactly what they're brilliant at, and you bring them together. And in essence, because you're bringing them all together energetically, you all have access. I know this may sound a little weird and woo woo, but you now all have access to all of the skills. And I don't have to make myself wrong for not being good at administration, because I have someone else who's really good at administration. I have somebody else who's really good at reliability or coordination and making sure that the team's, on time and on schedule. And I can do what I'm brilliant at. And I have the PR and planning and implementation, so that I can do the things that I'm really good at. So it really frees you up to do your brilliance and your genius and allow everyone else to do their brilliance and their genius. So there's no competition and it upscales everyone. I have, it's one of my little taglines is connect and collaborate. Together we all win. So it's a win, 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 win for everyone. And when everyone wins, that's when you know it's correct in from my perspective. If everyone's not winning, there's something that's out. So in business, if the client or the customer is winning, if everybody on the team is winning, if everybody that they touch and connect with is winning, that's what's possible, is that we have a world where we can connect and work together and amplify our brilliance and amplify the brilliance of others, and yet all work together. We're literally unstoppable when we can do that correctly.
Yeah, and you can see in the nowadays world, things are tremendously changing from kind of authoritarian style of leading, whether it's companies or even countries. People don't take it anymore. So I'm really glad that this system is now in the world because um, it's companies have always looked for ways to maximize their profit potential, but somehow the people working in the company were not as important. And
Mhm.
we know that a company is as good as its resources, which is their team. So how do you think this changes in the new reality, which we already see happening? Because according to me, BG5 is one of its biggest values is that it helps not only the leader, but also the team to be happy and to be on their right spot.
Yes. Yeah. So I think there is a huge shift that's happening in the structure of business. Instead of top down, it's really from the bottom up, because the people that are quote unquote what we currently see as the bottom are really the foundation. Um, and they know what's happening in real time, with customers, with clients, with the organization, with the teams. And part of what has happened is you have leaders that are sitting in the ivory tower saying you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to do this, and it's not practical for those with boots on the ground that are actually doing the work. And so, really, leadership is shifting and changing as well. Instead of top down leadership of do what I say, it's leadership that is leading and guiding. So the energy is being utilized correctly. But where things really happen is the people that are really, like I said, are doing the actual work. So when you can listen to what the employees need, when you can listen to what the team needs, when you can work together in a sense in powerful pods, if you will, that kind of work together, and it becomes more synergistic and it becomes more organic. We've been living in a sense in an artificial construct with this top down, because if you take a look at nature, that's not how nature operates. So we're returning to a more natural order versus an artificial order. And the natural order of things, if you take a look at, I have a whole exercise with OC16, which is larger group dynamics, where it really all starts with the roots. Because if you don't have the roots and it's not grounded and you're not continually innovating, things eventually die. So, in order to keep an organization healthy, making sure that the roots they're going in the direction that everyone's on board and everyone is rewarded and everyone is in their proper place. And so when all of that happens, and we're, like I said, I think the shift is again from the top down to the bottom up, and really moving much more. If you take a look at nature and how nature operates, and we can reflect how nature operates, that's how businesses are going to operate in the future as well, in a much more like organic ecosystem, much more like an ecosystem versus, top down control and command.
Yeah, yeah. And also, um, since in university, my specialization, or how you call it, I finished marketing and PR.
Mm.
And there is this concept about marketing and PR from hire to retire. Because in marketing, we say that your best advertisers are your own people, your own team. If they're happy, then they will be spreading the word amongst their friends, amongst their relatives. So it's super important to keep them happy till the day they retire and even afterwards. And I think
Mm.
that BG5 is so much in tune with that because it's really, if you have happy employees, happy team, that's all you need to succeed. When everybody again is in their correct place. Um, So, if there is something that you would like to, if somebody asks you, like, why should they incorporate this system into their current business, what is the number one and thing that you would tell them? And and not only the number one, like, what do you think the benefits will be for such a person if they're now listening to us?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think that the times are changing dramatically, and what once worked is no longer going to work. So, are you going to be ahead of the curve or are you going to be behind the curve? And I think with BG5, what it gives you is it gives you, in a sense, an advantage to be ahead of the curve. Because I think we're moving away from the model of everything is about money to everything is about contribution. And the more that if you are a leader, the more aligned you are with how you are personally designed to lead, because not everyone's designed to lead in the same way. And what happens, and what I often see with leadership, is people are trying to follow the book of this is how you're supposed to lead, and how you're supposed to lead has been top down and telling people what to do. That's the old model. And how do you specifically lead? Because if you're doing it authentically as yourself in leading, you're going to get a whole lot more out of your team and also for yourself. And it's going to be a lot less stressful. It's going to be a lot easier and it's going to be a lot more fun. We've kind of taken the fun out of business. But when things are aligned and when the team is humming, when you are following as a leader, when you're following your own design, it becomes really magical in that you're creating a contribution for your team is creating a contribution for each other, and then that snowballs into creating a contribution for every customer and every client. As woo woo as it may sound, things are going to shift more to an energetic feel. And people are going to feel when people are not aligned and are not truly themselves. So if you are a leader and you're not aligned and you're not truly yourself, you cannot hide anymore. In the past, we could hide behind rules and bargains and all kinds of things. We can no longer hide. Um, and that's actually a good thing because now we're really being called forth to be who we truly are. And when we are who we truly are, and we allow our team to be exactly who they are, it feels good and it's easy and it's fun. And the focus is not on the money and the resources, but the money and the resources show up as a result. And that's where money and resources are going to be coming from in the future, not from a bargain, not from being most strategic, not from being most competitive. It's going to be who's giving the biggest contribution, not only in what you do, but the energy in who you are. People will be able to feel it in the teams themselves, in the businesses themselves, and people are going to choose, who they decide to do business with based on alignment with their own values and if that business makes them feel good. And if that business doesn't feel good, they're not going to end up doing business with you. So it is going to be much more of I know it sounds weird, but that's what we're moving to, is more of an energetic congruency, that if you're not energetically congruent moving forward into the future, businesses are going to start falling apart. So the number one reason is to be ahead of the curve and to be able to adjust and adapt into the new era, to be able to take advantage of the new era in a really positive, beautiful, and magical way, to reduce stress and to have a lot more fun.
And isn't it funny when we talk about being authentic and being ourselves and how we cannot hide anymore? And this in the age of AI, where actually they predict right now about 30% of the information is either AI generated or false. And they predict then in about 10 years, it will be 95% of the information. So it's literally impossible to know what's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So this sounds really as something super, super important. How would you comment on the AI age?
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I have an interesting view on it. I think there's been more AI behind the scenes than we even actually can know or conceptualize, and it's just currently coming to the surface. And so I believe it is actually calling us out to be more human. Because in a sense, we've become machines ourselves. And we've become machines that we're really not designed to be. Like work is hard. We sacrifice ourselves for the good of the tribe. We sacrifice ourselves in order to make money. Yeah, our energy is drained from us. We're not doing what we love. We're not loving what we do. That's not being human. And so, I think it's giving us an opportunity to say, what is it to be us? What is it to be human? What is it for us to, what is our value? And so I think it's actually forcing us to see truly what our value is. And it's less about quote unquote knowledge, because in the past it has been about very logical knowledge. It's now moving more into what is the experience, and how do we learn, and ultimately, how we truly profit both as individuals and as businesses and as the collective is really sharing our outer authority, what we are learning, if you will, and taking in through our openness and truly being a passenger to learn and absorb and take in and learn from experiences. And then once we've learned it, how do we take that, what we've learned, and share it with others? Because literally, no one can see the exact same reality as you can. Nobody on the planet. So this is our opportunity to really stand in what makes us different, what makes us unique, what actually makes us divine, and how can we create in a way that we've never been, in a sense, allowed to create, because we've been so conditioned and we've been doing things in a different way. I think the new era opens us up, and the whole thing with AI, there's things that it's freeing us up in some respects to no longer be the machine, and to really take a look at what it truly is to be human, and how we personally can create magic in our own worlds. I believe as we move into the era of the individual, um, the era of the individual is also, in a sense, I'm going to say it this way, how do you bring heaven to earth? How do you bring the spiritual into this material form, to really learn and to grow and to explore and to create in ways that we've never had the opportunity to do? And how we learn and how we grow and how we create is not just as ourselves as individuals, as you started this as you started this talk. It's, we're not an island. It's how do we connect and share our wisdom and share our growth and share our experiences with others. And ultimately, business becomes an opportunity for us to learn and grow about ourselves and contribute to others. And ultimately, how we can contribute to others is through our wisdom, through what Ra called our outer authority. That's ultimately what we're developing. What Ra called the passenger consciousness, to truly be um, the passenger, to truly have that passenger consciousness, to be able to share with others. And that's also in connecting with groups and collaborating. you learn so much more through others than you do by yourself. And that's where really the true gold is going to be moving forward, is how you connect, how you collaborate, how you see the world, how you share what you see about the world with others
I just
is the
love the way
gold.
you put it. I didn't think of that, but I just love what you said. AI is here to show us how we're not human anymore. Wow. And to return back to that authenticity of truly being sentient beings. I love that. I
Yes.
love that. Okay, and if you have if you're a leader and you have a team, and as you mentioned, we're built, some of us to have certain qualities and others to have other qualities, but how do we engineer our team, not artificially, but in a natural way, and still utilizing what we know about their energy input and their qualities?
Yeah, I think the first key is each person understanding themselves. And what we in human design, it's strategy and authority. What we call it in BG5 is your decision making strategy, because that's really ultimately the key. If you have people that are really tuned in to what is correct for them, um, I think that that is part of the key, understanding yourself so that you can naturally come together in groups that feel correct. And it may feel correct for that time, and you do it for that time, and then it's no longer correct, and being okay that it's no longer correct, that it's time to move on to something else. And so it's really trusting your authority, trusting your decision making strategy. And if you have a group of people that are trusting at that and they come together, sometimes you can get very mental in engineering teams, because I've done that too, where I've gotten very mental and like, oh, I'm going to pull this person and this person and this person. I'm going to build a team. And then it doesn't quite work, because it's almost like I'm forcing the team together. Where I found the most magic is that you have a team, and maybe you have, we take a look at if there's gaps, and gaps are usually where there's energy leaking within a team. And it's either kind of putting it out there, like we'd love to find someone, and then the perfect person shows up. Or you have a team of people and it's not quite working and there's gaps, and one person decides to leave, and then another person comes in that has exactly what you need. What I've found is when everyone's really trusting their decision making strategy and things are coming together, to not get too mental about it, because you can get very mental in engineering, allowing the teams to get together and then seeing what the dynamics are. So I've found it actually much more useful to bring a team together, not from engineering the team, but from bringing the team together energetically, because everybody feels, yes, this is correct for me, seeing what the dynamics are. And maybe there's a gap, and maybe it's not a truly functional penta, what we call it, when there's a gap, but maybe it needs to have a gap for a little bit, and then the right person shows up. So it's not just about filling the gap, because I've done that before, where I thought, oh, well, now we can just get this person and now it fills the gap and now it works. Yes and no, because again, if you allow it almost to really happen organically and intentionally, it's magical how it actually does work, and the right people show up at the right time. So so it's kind of like this combination. We were talking about the masculine and the feminine earlier. The feminine aspect of being very receptive and allow it to organically come together. And then you can strategically take a look at the dynamics that are there. And then if something is missing, you can say, okay, it's missing. So we don't make ourselves wrong because it's missing. We can just laugh at it because, oh, well, we don't have administration, and that's why that's why it's missing. But we're going to like hobble along until the right person comes along that fills that gap, and then the team functions. So it's allowing, if each person knows themselves and then they come together naturally, that's how I've found personally the best way to quote unquote engineer a team and not get too in your head if there's a gap. Maybe there's the gap so that you can learn about that and then attract the correct person.
Oh, I like that. To learn. Yeah, a lot of things come to our lives, not to make it easier, but to help us
Ex-
learn.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the keys is that sometimes we make ourselves wrong. It's like, oh, did I make the wrong decision? Was I following my strategy and authority? Like this fell apart, or this partnership worked, or this partnership, like it worked to begin with, and then it fell apart. What was wrong? It's like everything has its own timing as well. And everything is a lesson for us to learn so we can develop our outer authority. Because if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't be able to share that experience with you of like, okay, I've been there, I've done that. This doesn't work. This did work, but this didn't work. And so this is what I would recommend. That's part of what outer authority is. Some doesn't make it necessarily it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to have issues or problems in life. It just allows you to work through the issues and problems in life without making yourself wrong, without making others wrong, and to always look at what the gem and what the lesson is in between. One of the things we say in Profit Potential is your mess is your message. And so the messiness of life and those places that really hurt and where there's trauma, like if you look for the gold underneath of what you've learned, like that is what's truly valuable, because then you can support someone else who may be going through the exact same thing. And that's part of the outer authority. And then you have a group of people that are not making each other wrong. Again, this is another big reason of why to use the system as well, because this is what I see a lot in business. People take things personally, people make other people wrong, people make up stories, people say, why isn't this person like this or like that? And when you can understand how each person uniquely operates, you don't blame yourself and make yourself wrong, because you're designed in a particular way. So it allows you to accept yourself. And two, it allows you to accept others exactly how they are, because then you can understand their design instead of thinking, oh, they're doing this against me. They're just doing what they do. And you're just interpreting that way because maybe there's a compromise, or maybe there's, a challenging electromagnetic, whatever that happens to be. And you can allow people to be who they are. You can allow yourself to be who you are. And then you can work together in a way that's very organic and natural.
Yeah. And we talked about the leaders and we talked about the team, but why should somebody come and get a personal career analysis?
That's in order so one of the things is that we, again, especially when it comes to, for example, career or even business, oftentimes we're very conditioned, maybe from our parents who wanted us to have a particular profession, or maybe in our minds we thought we should do this or should do that. Or maybe you're struggling, and sometimes there's transitions. Like maybe you had a job that you absolutely loved, and you thought that that's what you were going to do forever. But the thing is, our lives operate in cycles. That's another course too, is the cycles. It really operate in cycles that, that when the cycle comes to the end, things shift and things change. And it can be very confusing, especially at some of those tipping points. And so, if you are not sure, if you're at one of those tipping points, if you're, wanting to gain confidence in yourself, one of the things that I think about having, a career design analysis is really, in a sense, giving you permission to be yourself. Because oftentimes we make ourselves wrong of like, oh, I should be like this person, or I should be like that person, or I should do this, or my parents want me to do this. And oftentimes the things that are actually what we call your superhero powers or your brilliance, you've actually covered up because maybe you've been criticized for it. Maybe it's been shut down when you were really young. And then you say, no, this is something that is me and I actually really love, and it allows it to flourish. So oftentimes people are trying to be who they're not, and they totally ignore who they really are. And so, what a career design analysis allows you to do is see and, in a sense, give you permission to truly be yourself. And oftentimes I hear clients say, I've always known that about myself, but I've never been able to put it to words. Or I've always felt like this is what I wanted to do, but I felt like I never had permission to do it. Or, um, or I've never had confidence in just like knowing that that's okay. I thought I was weird. Thought I was out there. I thought it was that nobody would accept me that way. And to know that that's a part of my design and that's part of who I am, what it does is it gives you confidence. And when you have confidence, then it gives you permission to be yourself because you know who you are. And then even if you do come against, resistance, or if you come against, issues or problems, you can face it in a completely different way when you know who you are. And you can also set boundaries, like this is no longer okay. I'm not going to accept a job that, forces me to do something like this. I thought I had to do that, but now I realize I don't need to accept that. Or on the other side, taking a look at who you are so you can put together your resume, that you can put together those pieces. I've worked with someone, and I had a client also that worked with someone who they went through a career analysis and really was confident in who they were. So they were able to ask for a raise, and they were able to ask for a higher position, and they were hired for that higher position because they were confident in who they were. So there's all kinds of benefits, but the ultimate benefit is having confidence in being who you are so that you can find the job or the position that really aligns with you, or ask for the raise and the position that you really deserve.
Do you think it can help people find their true calling?
Absolutely. And that especially during the times of transition, or for example, younger people, if you're, going into college and you don't know what you want to do, one of the things that you can also take a look at is your life work and your life purpose and your public role. And, ultimately, if you can align what your career and business is to your life work and your life purpose, it becomes easy. It becomes a flow. Um, like I said, life can still be challenging, but at least you have that foundation, and it can give you like a really clear direction in, what direction you want to go. And working with a BG5 consultant as well allows you to, for example, for them to ask you questions so that you can really respond and hear yourself, kind of work through the process to hear yourself say what it is that you really want, and then also have the confidence to say, oh yeah, like that calling feels really good for me. And again, also knowing that there's different cycles, that if a cycle came to an end, there's nothing wrong with you. It's that that cycle is complete, and now the world is opened up for something new to unfold, and it can give you direction for whatever is new to unfold.
Mhm. And what is this course called Profit Potential about?
Yeah. So profit potential is about, ultimately what we were talking about is how do you really find your goal, and how do you naturally sell or market? And also, how do you access your true wisdom? Now we have what is defined in our design, and what is defined in our design is how we naturally operate. In profit potential, we call it your superhero powers. It is what you naturally do. It's um, what you naturally bring, and it's in a sense the energy that you give to others. Now, you also have all of your openness, and oftentimes people see the openness just as, ooh, the shadows, or things to decondition, or things to get rid of. But on the other side of the shadow is your deepest wisdom. And how do you access that wisdom? Because ultimately, that's what people are, quote unquote, buying from you, is your wisdom. So you can see, in a sense, what you're selling because that's the wisdom that you've acquired. Anything that's open in your design is like a window that you allow the energy to flow through you. You allow the lessons and the learning to go through you. It's part of your shadows, right? So it's going to be the difficult parts that you're challenged with, that you're learning from. And how do you take that and turn it into wisdom? Again, as I mentioned before, your mess is your message. So it's taking whatever the mess is of your shadow and being able to see the beauty and the wisdom on the other side. And the beauty and the wisdom on the other side is your outer authority, is what you're here to share with others. It is your perspective. It is your self-reflected consciousness that no one else on the planet can see things from your perspective. And ultimately, like I said, what we're going into is how do you make a contribution, and how you make a contribution is through the brilliance of your wisdom. So ultimately that's what you're quote unquote selling. It's also what you're kind of evoking in others. Just as an example, um, I have willpower, and willpower is the heart undefined. It's one of my profit potentials. And part of how I sell, I was giggling to myself as I was sharing when you asked me to share, what is the number one reason why people should do this? Um, you know, and I'm like, oh, that's where it came from.
Yeah.
Because the 51 is selling how to adapt, and that in a sense you're worthy if you can adapt. And so oftentimes, quote unquote, how I sell, and that was the number one reason for me is why to do this is because you're in a sense worthy if you can adapt to the changing times. Because I feel like the people that if you don't adapt to the changing times, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah.
And so it comes out naturally. I don't have to think about it. I giggle when it comes out because
Yeah.
it's not planned. It's just part, again, just like anything, it's part of your design. It's part of what I'm here to sell. It's part of what I'm here to share. It's part of the wisdom that I'm here to deliver to others. Is how do you adapt in order to thrive and build that confidence? What I was just talking about is building that confidence, building that worthiness, right? All of that comes from my profit potential. It's part of the wisdom that I've learned because I have it undefined to build confidence in others. So that's how it works.
Guys, I'm totally mesmerized by Karen. So if you would like to hear more from her or to work with her, whether on your personal career design or you have a team and if you're a leader, I will put all her links under this video. But Karen, is there something like last words you would like to share with people and how you can be of benefit and of value to them and help them thrive, not only survive?
Yeah. I think that's what we're moving to in the new era. So I guess the last words that I would say is like really when you love yourself and when you know how brilliant and amazing you actually are, when you understand your design, anything is possible. You are more powerful than you even know. You are more powerful than you even know. And when you can really tap into the power of who you are here on this planet for a purpose and a reason. And when you can see that purpose and reason, when you have confidence in yourself, when you can love yourself and you can connect with others and share your wisdom, that's what life is about. And that's how we can contribute to the whole. And that's how we create win-win-wins that create a completely different future and a completely different world. And that's what I'm up for, is creating a completely different world where everyone is truly doing what they love, loving what they do, and fully honoring themselves.
Wow. Thank you so much for being here, for being who you are, and for sharing yourself and your wisdom and your glimpse of what is coming. Um, yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share. And I just love you, Veronica. And so thank you so much for connecting. And it's really, truly been an honor. So thank you.
For me too. Okay,
Yay.
Karen, I want to leave the people wanting more uh, because, we cannot deliver all of you. It's impossible in one session, but I think they got a glimpse of your magic. For me, it being touching you is really magical, and I had the honor to meet you also live and hug you, which was great. So, guys, this is really something not to miss. So,
Yeah. Thank
I
you
have
so, so very much.
the links below, and if you want more from Karen, you know where to find her.
Thank
Okay,
you so much. Bye bye.
bye.